Okay, so take me back to the beginning here. You're obviously an artist in this town, recording artist and a performer. So the music has been with you pretty much all your life?
Yeah. I started making music, we'll say air quote, professionally, like playing shows and stuff at the very end of high school.
Okay.
I think I played my first show the summer I graduated high school. So I didn't play in any bands or anything in high school. But, I mean, we had, like, garage band stuff, trying to make things work. And I was making hip-hop music independently, just making beats. And me and my friends were writing rap songs, just, like, joking stuff.
Okay.
But it started in probably middle school, like, making beats and learning how to do that stuff, 8th grade. And then it didn't really become super duper serious until after I had graduated high school. By the time I was a senior, I was like really, really getting into it.
Okay.
And then afterwards, it was just like full force. I started playing in bands, playing a lot of shows, moved out of mom's house, and really started going a lot more full force with it. Prior to that, I was a lot more into like visual arts.
Okay.
Drawing and painting and things like that.
All right.
But music was always my first love. I just didn't really have a way to do it. I didn't know. I was an only child when I grew up. So no siblings. Parents were split. And me and my mom just lived in an apartment building. I always wanted to play the drums. It wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't a thing. So making beats in 8th grade, that was the closest thing to me learning how to do any sort of like make drums.
Got it.
You know what I mean? Because I was like, I can't play them live, but I can program these beats out. So I started doing that, and then even that just didn't feel necessarily real at the time. I didn't know that like you could do anything serious with that until, after high school, I met some other people that were doing hip hop stuff, but actually playing shows. Mm-hmm. And when I met them, I was like, oh wow, like you can actually go out and perform. It's such a weird world to get into. Mm-hmm. In high school, there were rock bands that were playing shows, so that made sense to me.
Right.
But like local rap just didn't make any sense to me because it just wasn't a thing that was in my neighborhood. There was no like local fire hall rap shows, you know what I mean? It was all the bad like Blink-182 wannabe bands.
And we don't want to go there.
Yeah. But that's the era I grew up in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty much it. It started there. Just after high school, just going full force on writing and recording, and then I did eventually end up getting in like a metal band and things like that, but that was down the line.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, well, it kind of happened. There's such a mess of things that were going on in my life at that time, but obviously I grew up listening to a lot of rock music.
Okay. Give me an example.
I was born in 85.
All right.
And my parents were like 17 when they had me. So they were super duper young, and I always joke and say I was raised on the 3Ms, Metallica, Maiden, Megadeth.
You could do worse.
So I grew up listening to a lot of rock and heavy metal, and then in terms of pop culture, the early 90s when we're getting into like, I'm in school.
Right.
So 1990 to 1995, like, like that whole like kindergarten through 5th grade for me. Music was so interesting then because it was so okay to like whatever. Like you could like Green Day, you could like Rage Against the Machine, Beastie Boys, like all this stuff was super popular.
That was the
like,
90s.
Yeah, like early 90s stuff, right? Yep. And it was like all over the place, but it made sense to like all that stuff. I feel like sometimes over the years, there's been eras of music that have been a little bit more segregated where it didn't make sense to blend that much. Mm-hmm. Not so much these days, but for a while, like in the 2000s and whatnot. But in that time frame, so at school, all my friends are listening to Green Day and Rage Against the Machine and things like that. But at home, with my dad, it's all, Iron Maiden, Metallica. And then I also spent a lot of time with my uncle.
Okay.
Who, my uncle and my grandma, they lived together because my parents were young, so they babysat me a lot.
Right on.
So in that house, it was like, my uncle listening to all Rolling Stones and the Kinks and the Beatles, and my grandma was all like Billie Holiday, Aretha Franklin.
So you got it all.
So it was like all that stuff. I was always into all of it. So I wanted to make rock music. Mm-hmm. but I got into finally making music through making beats, like jokey rap beats with my friends. I didn't care about what I was making. I just wanted to make something.
Okay.
So we're making music, and I'm just learning how to structure songs. I'm learning how rhythm and chord melody works on a computer.
Okay.
Basically, you know what I mean? But as a result of me always wanting to do rock music, there was always a bit of a harder edge to everything that I did. It always had like a bit of a rock background. And I guess too, you know, also growing up in the era of your Corns and your Limp Biscuits and that whole...
I tried to forget that little what, 3 or 4 year period
that
in the
whole
90s.
new metal thing, like, so that was the thing too. Like, there
West
was
Borland, right?
Yeah, the idea of like rock and rap coming together wasn't entirely foreign to me, but it was just like all that stuff kind of came together. So fast forward, you know, I start playing shows, and I think even though I was making rap music, as a performer, I maybe had a bit more of a rock edge.
Got it.
I was a little bit more...
Got it.
I wasn't all like, yo, I'm cool. Here it is. You know what I mean? I was always a little bit more
angst.
I was a little bit more intense.
Got it.
And I saw somebody saw me at a show once, and they were like, hey, I've seen you play a couple of times now. What do you think about, would you ever want to be in a heavy metal band?
You only had to ask you once, right?
Yeah, and I was like, well, I mean, 'cause I think at this point it was obvious that I was a heavy metal fan. It wasn't like a total shot in the dark for this person to ask me that.
Right.
And I was like, yeah. I was like, you know, I would love to be in a heavy metal band. I tried to do it in high school. It never went anywhere. But then I ended up trying out for this band called Ascend the Fallen. And then that was it from there. I started playing a lot of shows with them. And then I've played in a bunch of bands and stuff since, up to where I am now. But that was the start of playing in rock bands, was just being such a rock-driven rapper that somebody in a metal band saw me and asked me to try out.
If somebody asked me, or no, if someone like myself would meet you for the first time and say, you know, not that you want to get labeled, but generally, what style of music do you do?
Well, with Sikes and the New Violence, which would be my main project now, I say that it's... I jokingly like to say that it's hip-hop for kids who used to wear wide-leg jeans.
Are you shitting me?
Jokingly.
That's great, though. That's great. That's great.
I mean, it's, you know, it's the basis of it is hip hop, but I mean, we have live guitar, we have live bass, we play shows with live drummers sometimes, and it has a rock feel to it for sure, but it's just it's a mixture of just kind of everything that I grew up with. You know what I mean? It's that, like, all that stuff has punk elements. It has some elements that are more metal, some elements that are more calm and smooth and relaxed, almost jazzy, and it all gets thrown into a blender. It's just like it's like my personality as a song would be what I try to do through that stuff. Yeah.
So that, I'm guessing that does help you though, doing the podcast, because you can speak well on multiple genres of music. Am I right? Yeah,
totally. I love all music. I mean, like, with that background, I just grew up appreciating everything, because everybody in my life, nobody did music. I have an uncle who lives in Manhattan who has done, like, dance music in the early 90s and stuff, and that was
a thing.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he's great. It was a lot of fun.
There was a thing. That was a thing.
Well, I mean, he was the person that honestly, like, made me realize that, like, you can do this. This is possible. You know what I mean? Just because it was somebody that I knew that, you know, took a chance, abandoned the family, went out and followed their dreams. So that's cool.
What's wrong with that?
So that was awesome, just being able to see that. And there was also a thrash metal band from Pittsburgh called Eviction.
Yeah.
They are actually playing a reunion show in June, and I just had the vocalist
on years? Give me those years, because I remember that band.
They were like probably like mid to late 80s to like the early 90s.
Yeah. These guys are probably my age now.
Yeah, maybe. They're probably, that would make sense, because I would imagine whenever they had an album that came out on Metal Blade Records in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And my dad was a fan of them.
They all started on Metal Blade.
Yeah.
Even the big ones started on Metal
Yeah.
Blade. Was it Varney? Mike Varney, I think. I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name who started that company. Mike Varney, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Early 80s, all the way back.
Yeah.
Metal Blade.
They were on it, and that was the two things. My uncle, who was making dance music in Los Angeles at the time, and the thrash metal band Eviction from Pittsburgh were like the two things where it's like, oh, these are people that I know,
right?
And I'm holding like their record.
Yeah.
Like, there's a picture of somebody that I see.
Yeah.
At the record store.
That was validation for you that time.
Yeah, totally. So it just made it all realistic for me. But outside of that, everybody in my family listened to music, even though they weren't musicians themselves. And they were all crazy passionate about it. Like, they all really, really loved that stuff. Like, my dad loved heavy metal. And my uncle loved, fucking, the Rolling Stones, and I wanted to say like garage rock, but that's not the right term. But like just 60s classic rock.
The Stones are their own thing.
Yeah, he loved that stuff, and my
the Who.
Yeah, the Who. Yeah, absolutely.
Zeppelin.
Yeah, Zeppelin. Jimi Hendrix. Sabbath. All that stuff, and he was super passionate about that stuff. He would actually take me to record stores with him, because he would kind of get like, he would be in charge of watching me. So it was like, okay, I guess we're going to Dave's Music Mine, or we're going to Ides, and
Ides.
I loved it,
and
then like going to Ides was how like I like met and knew about Eviction, because a lot of those guys worked at that store.
Right on. But you missed that whole vinyl. I mean, you're getting it now on the rebound, but you missed all that vinyl.
No. Like, when I would go to the store, like, it was still vinyl. Like, my uncle every once in a while would let me pick out a record, and he would buy it for me. Okay. Which is funny, because flash forward, whenever I was 16 and I started getting really into making beats, I bought a turntable for sampling, and my uncle caught wind that I had bought a turntable. He was like, "Hey, I heard you got a record player," and I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You want all those old records from when you were a kid?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then it's like first pressing all my Iron Maiden, Anthrax, Slayer, like all this stuff that like
good stuff.
he got from me when I was a kid. It was like, it just started my record collection
Anthrax,
there.
You see that guy there? Scott Ian?
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, that's some work we did with Scott. I haven't heard Anthrax mentioned not in this studio for a long time.
Oh, so, yeah, I love Anthrax. I actually have an original, whenever Among the Living came out. I have a huge original Subway-sized, it's like Subway fucking, 5x6, huge poster framed in my,
how about that?
In my house, like at the top of my steps.
Right on.
Whenever like you're walking out, so every day it's just like a reminder. Keep on headbanging, motherfucker. Life's good.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. I didn't realize your background was that steeped in metal. That's good.
Yeah, metal's the first love. I remember my dad tried to, the first I guess it would have been first grade school picture day. My dad tried to sneak me into school like with wearing an Iron Maiden trooper shirt. That like they didn't make them for kids, but I remember going to Monroeville Mall, and he got it like the cover heat pressed on like a white T-shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I had it, and I remember, and then like it was like he put a button up over it, and I remember him like saying like like don't tell your mom, but whenever whenever it's time to take photos, just take off the button up, and you'll have it. But I think like something happened. My mom caught it, and she caught wind of it real fucking quick and made me take it off. But
That's
but
awesome.
as revenge, my senior photo was in a Number of the Beast t-shirt. So it finally came around.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The metal scene in Pittsburgh. I know we haven't hit the podcast yet, but we will. The metal scene in Pittsburgh. Is there still a metal scene in Pittsburgh?
Absolutely.
There is.
Yeah. It's unfortunately kind of segregated in some ways, because there are some bands that I don't know why, but they're just they're insular. They kind of they have their clique, and it's very much, we don't want to expand. We have our specific venues that we play and our bands that we play with, and we don't want to play any shows with you. We don't want you to play shows with us.
That's not going to help the scene any.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's very weird, but they all do well. And, you know, all of them are doing a lot for the Pittsburgh metal scene in their own way.
Okay.
You know, they bring in some of the people that are like promoters in that side of things.
Yeah.
They bring in a lot of out-of-town bands, which is awesome, and they have, you know, good working relationships. They're awesome people.
Yeah.
But they're just people that, for whatever reason, like the experience that I've had over the years playing in the bands that I've had, it's always been disconnected.
That's interesting.
And it makes no sense to me because I always say, you know, if this was high school, we'd all be sitting at the same lunch table together. We'd all be, you know, maybe poking fun at each other like, oh, you know what I mean? I can't believe you're wearing that Limp Bizkit shirt. But like, we're still friends. You know what I mean? We're still friends. But it's funny now. It's like, you know, 20 years later, and it's like, we're still...
Yeah.
It's like, you know, we all just want to... It's not... What we're doing isn't easy to keep doing, to keep taking what little bit of free time and resources you have to pack up all your gear and drag it across town to play for 40 people. You know, it's
right.
You gotta love it if you keep doing it.
Right.
But it's like, you got 40 people, we got 40 people. Why don't we drag everybody out and play for 80?
Yeah.
Why don't we combine these resources?
Yeah. That's the smarter way to do it.
But there's just some people that don't want to do it, but there are people that do want to do it. And, you know, in most recent years, my experiences with Grey Walker have just been, you know, we never stop asking some of those people on that side of the spectrum, hey, you want to play a show? We got some opportunities. We always invite them.
That's crazy.
A lot of times they aren't interested, and that's fine. But because, you know, on the flip of that, we've definitely built up a really cool community of bands, and outside of just bands, just good fucking people that are awesome to hang out with and want to have a good time. And, you know, we can have a show and we can get like 100 people to come out to a show. You know, it's not nothing.
No, but and like you said, if you I don't like the word collaborate, but if you basically, you know, collaborate to some degree on an event, and you bring multiple bands in, and you cross-pollinate audiences, you can do better. You'll do better together than you will separately, for sure, right? Totally.
But the scene is good. All scenes are good. And I guess our side of stuff in our realm is doing really, really well. And it's also, you know, the shows that other people are doing, you know, that are on that side of the thing. Yeah. They're also doing really well, too. Pittsburgh's always had a really strong punk community, really strong hardcore. Metal's kind of been a little bit more on the bottom, but I mean, it's still not bad. You know, there are local bands that can pull 100 people in on a weeknight, and that's pretty good for Pittsburgh.
That's good.
I think that's pretty good.
That's pretty good no matter what decade. You're pulling 100 a night. In Pittsburgh. That's not bad.
It's not bad. There are bands that can do it.
You familiar with Twisted Fate Productions?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Julie Winter?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the only little peek into the current metal community that I know is through them. Yeah, but
no, they're great. Yeah, Julie and Jerry are awesome people. Yeah. They're great. Yeah, actually, they're the worst. Go to hell. I hate you. No,
I'm sorry, Julie.
no, they're great. If you haven't had them in here, you should.
Yeah, they're on the list, my friend. Trust me.
They're fantastic people to talk to. Trust me. Yeah. We actually met them. So we did our album release. We did our album release at the Rex Theater. Okay. And they came out and they introduced themselves to me after our set, and they were super nice and said that they wanted to work on getting a show together, just setting something up. And we ended up meeting a few weeks later, got coffee or something, and just sat down. We've been friends ever since. We've done several events together. Awesome. I've been to like their New Year's Eve parties at their house and shit. And they're very nice people, and they are so goddamn passionate about what they're doing. No question. Which is awesome. And like there's no ego with them too, which is crazy, because I feel like when you are a promoter in the city, especially a promoter that's also, you have a band, because Jerry has a band, Winter's Descent. Right. It's so easy to just be like, well, every show that we book, it's just going to be for our band, and we're going to do our thing, and, you know, it's going to be about us. But it's never about them. They go out of their way so much to really promote other people and go to shows. They go to a lot of stuff that they don't even have anything to do with.
Got it.
And they give a shit and they post about things and they're just really...
She does a weekly update too.
Yeah, they're just super involved in the community, and it's really, really refreshing.
Good
to have people like that.
So the metal scene is, I mean, I kind of, through her and through her husband, I've kind of got the vibe of what, at least from their vantage point, what's going on, which is always really, really positive to me. But it's good to hear in general that there still is an active metal scene in Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah,
I worried about it about 5 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, well, I think in general, I always call the 2012 to 2014 the dark ages of the Pittsburgh music scene.
Yeah.
As far as my life goes. Because, I mean, I started playing shows in probably 2003 was when I graduated. And then super heavily by the time like 2008, it was like a thing where it's like every weekend I have gigs, you know what I mean? Like really picking it up.
Yeah.
So I had a good chunk of time before 2012 hit. So I knew what it was like. And then I saw it tank. It just was a completely different feeling. But then I've seen it pick back up. Yeah. And now I feel like it's probably better than it's been.
That's actually great. That's great news then. So let's go back to the inception when you decided you were going to do a podcast. We talked a little bit off camera. You were on someone else's podcast. Is that how you initially got involved, or had the idea, or the podcast world touched you in some way? Because
there was two things. So me and some people that I used to live with, we all played in a band together, and they were into podcasts more than I was. I never even, this was 2011, 2012 area.
Okay.
So I knew podcasts were a thing, but I wasn't hip to anything in particular.
All right.
They wanted to do a podcast, and I basically got dragged in because A, all of the recording gear in the house was mine.
Funny how that works.
and B, I just lived there. You know what I mean? So, but it was fine. It was just, hey, let's just hang out with our friends and we'll bullshit about. I don't even remember what the angle was on these podcasts, to be honest with you. So we recorded a few of those, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. Then maybe a year or so later, I got invited to be on a podcast. Just me. Just somebody sitting down talking to me about me. Talking to Sikes about Brian and talking to Brian about Sikes.
What you doing today?
What I'm doing today. And it was the first time I had ever done anything like that. So I was excited. It was fun. It was a little awkward, but I felt that it went well. And then I listened to it after it had been released, and I just felt awkward.
Okay.
You know?
Why?
I just felt that I wasn't super good at the time at talking to people, and I wanted to get better at talking to people, especially being somebody that's in the music industry in 2000. Well, now it's 2020, but then it would have been, 2014, 13, whatever year it was. And media is a big thing now. You got to talk to people. You got to let people know what you're doing.
Right.
So I was like, fuck, I want to get better at talking to people. And I was like, well, I could do my own podcast. I know a lot of people that are musicians and have interesting stories to tell.
Right.
So let me just try it. So I recorded one episode, and then I recorded 5, and then 10, then 20, now 300.
We'll get into that in a second.
I just kept going with it. It was a lot of fun. And I ended up finding something that I didn't realize I was looking for at the time over the years. And it's just making that actual connection with people. Learning so much more about the city, because at the time it's like the only people that I know or people that I meet are bands that I'm playing shows with. And then like meeting them is just like, oh, you help somebody lift a guitar cab like up on the stage, or just like, hey, good set, like that sort of stuff. You don't really get to sit down and talk with anybody.
Right.
So it was really cool getting to give people a platform to tell about their stories, learn about where they came from, see like what they're connected to. And then over time, once I ran out of friends to talk to, strangers start coming in, and I'm start learning about all these crazy different pockets, because, I'm only tied into, metal from playing with Grey Walker, or the hip hop stuff from playing with Sikes. And I don't know anything about local folk music. I don't know anything about like not much about the indie rock community or
country
or all these different demographics. even other rappers in the city. There have been people that I've had on the podcast where like we both started playing shows at the same time.
Right.
But the first time we're meeting is face to face at my table.
Got it.
And it's like, this is nuts. How did we not know each other? And then you start trying to like connect the dots, and there's no dots to even connect. It's like every producer that they know is different, every venue that they're playing at, like some of them are the same, but they're just on different nights because they're working with different promoters.
Right.
It's like, who are all these people?
Yeah.
There's a whole crazy world that exists outside of your bubble.
There's no question. And you just have to force yourself to get out of that bubble, and for guys like yourself and me, this is a vehicle for us to do that.
Yeah.
Podcasting in general.
It's super humbling. I feel that, every artist needs a reality check that they're not as important as they think they are. And doing the podcast for as long as I have been, and as many people as I've talked to over the years, it's like you realize everybody has the same struggles, everybody has the same ups and downs, and we're all just people.
Yeah.
I
love that though.
It's so hard to it's so easy to forget that.
It is. It is easy to forget that.
Just because you're good at guitar, or because you can rap real good, or because whatever you do really good, it doesn't it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's awesome, but it's like, cool your jets, bro. Like, you're still just a person. Let's just like hang out and just enjoy life.
The two big takeaways I have, and I want to get your thoughts on it, probably happened maybe after maybe the 10th or 12th show I did. The first one was that, yes, I've done some cool shit in my day, but the show's not about me, and I really am here to learn about other people. And when you are patient enough to do that, we talked about that word, and you really start listening, like we were talking about, you mentioned right away, listening, how important that is. Once you really start to do that, you realize, wow, there are people doing some amazing fucking stuff out there.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're humble enough to really listen, which is the whole purpose of this anyways, this exercise, it's amazing the talent that's out there on all levels. I've had doctors, scientists, I've had business people in here, and in their own unique field, what they're doing, their own little niche of the world, they're doing amazing stuff. And most people, like you said, have no fucking idea what's going on.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So that part about just discovering other people's talents. And then the other thing too is just, which you also mentioned, is that, at least I think you did, that we're all putting our pants on the same way. In the end, we're all dealing with the same different things going on throughout the day, different fields of study, but in the end, there's still that commonality, but just fucking people.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I feel that, most people that are worth talking to just want to be treated like a person. Like, I've never met anybody in my travels anybody that wants to be treated like a fucking rock star that's worth a moment of my time. Right. To be honest with you, it's just like, who the fuck do you think you are? It's like, I don't give a shit if you're fucking, Brian Howe or fucking Paul Stanley. Yeah. It's like, it's all people.
And it's just so funny when you said that, because I'm going through my head, like all the years in the guitar business, we got to work with some great people, and not some not so great people, and we're not going to out them. Stanley being one of the great ones, being like the most, like, here's a guy, it's like humble guy. You can talk all about the merchandise and all that stuff, and or the level of musicianship, whatever it is. That guy treated me great in the time that we were together. But I've also run into other musicians in the same era that were like fucking dirtbags, and you don't want to think that way about someone. And sometimes you only get a short window to look and view your interaction with them. But man, I mean, when you said not worth getting to know, how'd you put it? They're not worth your time, not worth your...
It's not worth a moment of my time.
Yeah. I can so relate to that. Yeah.
That's the thing too, is like, also with doing the podcast, there's been a lot of people that have said like, hey, you should get so and so on the show,
Right,
or you
right.
should, you know, try to reach out to people that are coming in from like
Yeah.
bands that are coming into town and try
Yeah.
to get bigger guests. And I find that there's like a certain threshold that happens because I'm very self-aware of where my show is currently
Mm-hmm.
and what I can offer the guest. And I feel like there's like somebody, like say for example, for some reason, I could get Paul Stanley on my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what the fuck are the two of us going to talk about? Realistically, you know what I mean? Like, we just live on different planets.
Yeah, there's no question.
And as much as I would like to, I mean, I'm sure that we could like sit down and shoot the shit for maybe, you know, 5 minutes about whatever.
Yeah.
But like being in an environment like this, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Microphones,
Yeah, yeah.
cameras,
Right.
lights.
Right.
Like, what the fuck am I going to talk about with
Yeah.
somebody that's
What's the quality of the
on
content?
Yeah. It's like, why?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that like a big part of my show is also just giving up and coming artists a platform to go through the growing pains of learning how to talk about themselves, learning how to do interviews properly.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, God forbid your band gets big and the first time you're ever talking with somebody on a microphone is on like a real show.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look like a nincompoop, you know what I mean? We don't want that to happen. So I'm very aware that a lot of the time when I have people on my show, it's the first time they've ever been on
Yeah.
anything like this.
Yeah.
And it can be intimidating when you bring somebody in and you have
Certainly.
microphones, headphones, lights, cameras, and they're just like, what am I, you know, I'm numb to it, but just trying to be very aware of that and make people comfortable.
So it's almost you're doing the industry, our own little Pittsburgh market in general. You're kind of doing a service to these people because you're putting artists, you're forcing an artist actually to self promote, to get out there and put a set of headphones on and speak into a microphone.
I think that
and talk.
It's giving, a lot of people here have stories to tell, and I understand that, you know, there's sure, it could be great to get like a huge artist on the show,
sure.
but again, it's like those stories have been told. I mean, don't get me wrong. If
They're tired of talking about
if
them.
somebody, you know what I mean. If somebody, we'll just say Paul Stanley, because I keep looking at that his handsome ass singing over there on the wall. But
It's my guitar, by the way.
Nice. If for whatever reason they were like, yo, like his publicist hit me up and was like, hey, you know, so and so likes your show and they really want to come on, I would do it, regardless of how big they are.
You better.
But like actually like going out of my way to like pitch my show, to have somebody come on and sit down and talk, when like the most that I can offer you is a few thousand views on
Right.
the internet.
Right.
Like, sure, to like, you know, Joe Schmo local band, that's great. But to people that are
Right.
bigger, it's just
Right.
like I don't have much to offer them.
Well, I think that's very interesting because that is what's happening now. I think when, so you can get your show popular in a city, which is awesome, and that's, you know, sometimes that's all we can hope for, is to really become, you know, successful in your own city. But right, to a national artist who's just happened to be, you know, cruising through, are they better off sitting with you or me for an hour, or going to the local radio station for 2 minutes?
Totally.
Where are they going to get the biggest pop?
The thing too is that like I've had some national touring people on my show. It's happened just through friends of friends, and it's happened.
Absolutely.
Like I've sat down with some, in terms of like people that I normally have on the show, like some fucking big names.
Right.
And the funny thing is that it doesn't pop anymore. You know what I mean? It's like my numbers are the same, because the people that listen to my show listen to my show. There's going to be some stragglers that maybe come in, you know,
Yeah.
if they post about it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe a few hundred people might check it out, and that's not nothing.
Right.
But to them, that's like, whatever.
Yeah.
And then, you know, some of my people, maybe some, but it like evens out, because there's probably a few hundred people that might listen to my show normally that don't, because they don't have no idea who this person is.
Right.
So then it just balances out with the traffic they bring in.
Correct.
Because
Correct.
my platform is still on a certain level. But that's okay. It's just like, I know what I'm doing is, again, it's just a super small niche, because it's Pittsburgh based. So you're taking the world and you're shrinking it to Pittsburgh. And then you're like, well, you know, Pittsburgh arts and entertainment. And then it's even smaller. But
there's still a lot of room to grow in that
Yeah,
niche, though.
no,
Would
I'm
you know
trying.
what I mean?
I'm
Well,
trying.
you are. You're growing. Like, you're growing.
I'm trying my darndest, my friend. And the other thing too, I just try to like be, again, just being humble, thankful for what you have, and like, sure, it would be great to be pulling in fucking Joe Rogan numbers, but like, let's be a little bit realistic here. I don't have fucking NASA people and political pundits on my show. I have underground musicians. Hey. But the thing too is like, hey, say I put out an episode and it gets a couple thousand hits. How many local shows have a couple thousand people at them? Exactly. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say. Listen, I'm not saying you're a humble guy. I'm just saying take stock once in a while. Look back and see where you've come from. Oh, totally.
And where you're headed. Yeah, and you're sitting here because you're on my radar, completely on my radar. And so I know what you're doing, and I get it. And I think we're kindred spirits in a lot of different ways. Different kind of formats, maybe a little bit, somewhat, but we're in the same area. We're in the same geographic area. I'm doing a more open genre show. You're doing more music specific, but I got that musical lean because of my years doing what I did. So I get it. But I will tell you, the only advice I would give you as a friend would be, do not turn down any national act if it ever comes in. Because you just never know what kind of volume of pop that can get you. If you like, we were loosely discussing getting two of the members of Stone Temple Pilots on when they were in. I tried hard, I just couldn't make it happen. It's on my end, and that's fine. But I would have loved to have that, not only because I love the band, so it's interesting to me, but it's also, if you do a little marketing, their fan base will grab that. You realize that? I mean, and that is extra eyeballs. Yes, those fans may never come back. We don't know how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
But I would take whatever you can possibly get, as long as you're interested. Yeah. And it's something you really want to do.
Yeah, that's the key. That's 1000% the key. You know what I mean? I get emails a lot from PR people that are asking me to do like coverage for a show or an album review or things that have nothing to do with my show because they're just fucking desperate.
Absolutely.
But every time I get one that's like an artist that I'm actually interested in, I'll respond and say, hey, this isn't what I do, but what I do is this.
Right.
If they would be interested in doing this, we can set that up. I never get a response.
Yeah,
but I
think because I think podcasting is still, believe it or not, still fucking new. I think the field is still being defined. We're in it early, not real early. You in it earlier than I, but we're in it now. We're at the point where it's a medium that is going to replace radio in terms of how we look at radio now, and probably replace television. But it's still being defined. And I don't know that these PR folks, the people that are doing PR style work now for record companies, I don't think they even understand what the fuck's going on here, because you have radio stations that are losing base, so now they're doing video. So now there's like your number one DJ now has their own video show, so the lines are being blurred. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think too with a lot of the PR people, it's just somehow my email wound up on some goddamn list somewhere. And basically I'm just getting spam emails, you know what I mean? It's most of the time it's not personal. It's just like, hello, start the beat with Sikes. This is something. It's like, Jesus Christ, give me you know what I mean? Like, it's so obvious, but I'll still go through because you never know like what it could be.
You might miss something.
Yeah.
Something, and it's a value to.
I mean, I open all of them. I get a lot of them. Like, I mean, like probably 2 or 3 a day.
Wow.
And that's just me on my level, which is like, very small in comparison. So I totally understand, how hard it is. People were just trying to get their stuff out there, but it's just like, they don't want to actually like come on the show. It's just, they want me hoping that, like, thinking I have a live show or something, and I could be like, yo, go see, Jerry and the Shit Kickers tonight at Jurgles or whatever the fuck it is.
That sounds like a country western act, pal.
Yeah. No, it's actually country rap.
Is that a real thing?
No, I just made this up.
I was gonna say, holy shit, man.
Yeah. No. And I get it. I understand it just from a band perspective because I've put out albums and I'm trying to get album reviews, or we're trying to schedule shows. Like, I get it's just like over time, it's like you may even start trying to be focused, but you only have so much time to do research, and like after a while you're like, fuck it, let's just start sending stuff to everybody. But then that doesn't do you any favors.
No, it ends up being worse for you.
I empathize with the desperation though. I've definitely been there. The podcast is still very selfish. that I do. It's
Repeat that, because I say the same thing and people look at me sideways. Again, please.
The podcast is very selfish.
Yes.
I do it for very selfish reasons.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, I guess you don't have to. We're doing it because we're passionate about it, right? We've talked off air. There's no like short-term money component for either one of us here. We're doing it because we're passionate about it. But with that comes freedom, right?
Yeah.
We can do whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah. I could just not upload for 4 weeks if I don't feel like it.
That is true.
And the other thing cool too about, I feel that like people would get it.
Uh-huh.
Just be like, hey, I could probably say
He's
nothing.
just done.
And people might notice. Be like, oh, it doesn't look like he's uploaded anything. There's been times where I've had to take breaks.
Well, sure.
Moving into a new house, I remember I took off for a month.
Yeah.
And all I did was just say like, hey, like at the time I had over 100 episodes at the time.
Right.
Like I know all you assholes haven't listened to all of these. Go back and find one. If you're desperate for something, find one you haven't heard. Check it out.
All right. Who was your first podcast?
Oh boy. Okay, so my first podcast was with a buddy of mine. His name was Josh. His name is Josh. I haven't spoken to Josh in a very long time, but he was actually one of the roommates that I did that early podcast with.
Okay.
And we played in a band together. We lived together, and everything kind of. It's funny. I'm looking at a sign right there that says derailed, and it's like the derail, and it's the perfect explanation of what happened. So yeah,
that's why we love that sign. The D behind you. Yeah,
okay,
I would get like 20 of them and put them in here.
Yeah, so it 1000% it derailed, and
Right.
yeah, I mean, I don't think either of us hold any negative feelings towards each other now at the moment. I haven't talked to him in fucking years, but yeah, that was the first episode that I did was with him because he was a musician. He was a good friend of mine at the time.
Easy entry.
And he was like, the friend he had already been listening to podcasts forever. He was one of the people that wanted to start it.
Yeah.
So it just made sense. He understood the format and it worked.
When did you get the name? When did it come? Was it there from the beginning or?
Yeah. So way back in maybe 2009, there was a song that I did where like the intro to the song just had like this joking sort of introduction thing with like me doing a skit.
Okay.
Where I'm like, start the beat. Start the motherfucking beat, and then the track comes in, and it became kind of like a catchphrase.
Right.
And I had like shirts that said like "Start the motherfucking beat," Sikes and stuff on it, like well before the podcast.
Okay.
So it was just a thing.
All right.
And then when I was thinking of a name for the podcast, it just kind of clicked. It was like "Start the beat," just clicked in my head because it was like already kind of tied to something that some people knew me for, anyways.
Right.
And it's a good name for a podcast about
question.
music.
No question.
So that was it.
So when did you decide you were going to incorporate video in your show?
So about, I don't remember how, maybe 3.5, 4, I don't know. It's becoming a blur at this point. But it just got to a point where I realized that it would be cool to have a video component to a show.
Okay.
And I didn't have a nice camera or anything, but I had a phone that took nice enough video. So I was like, well, let me just record like, I started just by recording like the first 10 minutes of every podcast.
Okay.
So I could just get like a little clip to promote.
Okay.
And then I just started leaving it on. And I just started uploading
People
it.
like it.
Yeah.
They like it.
Just started leaving it on, do it and just uploading that and still doing the audio. And then I really liked it. And I just thought that I find that people like video, as you've said.
do.
And it just gives me a better reason to be on different platforms and just gives more people things to share and
expands the reach.
And it wasn't that
No
much
question.
more of an effort. Like I'm already doing everything else. It's not that much more. It's really not a whole lot more work to have one camera sitting there pointing. I mean, you got fucking 3 cameras because you're a psychopath right now. 5? Wait, there's 1, 2, 3.
What are you missing, man? All right, so there's 1.
Oh,
1, 2,
I didn't see the key. Okay.
3, 4.
Holy shit.
5. Yeah, we do it right here. I want to add 2 more, but the editing's a bitch.
Yeah. Yeah, so when I got my nice camera, I kept for a while, there's a few episodes where I was running 2 cameras.
Okay.
So I had the phone camera and my Sony. And I would cut between the two. Basically, the Sony or my phone would just be like close up on the guest, and then the Sony would be on both of us.
Okay.
And then even that, I was like, I'm gonna upload a few of these without the edits, and I'm gonna see if anybody says anything. And nobody ever said anything, so I was like, fuck it, I'm probably working too hard. Don't work hard, work smart.
Yeah.
And especially once I started doing 2 episodes a week, now I'm doing 3.
That's a lot.
I can't fucking do that.
Yeah,
I do all this myself too. A lot of people don't
know.
like.
I get it.
It's like I book the episodes. I'm the one setting up all the stupid XLR cables. I'm the one exporting all the video and the audio. I'm syncing it all up. I'm exporting it. I'm uploading it. I'm typing in the stupid description about finding all of your dumb fucking links to your albums that nobody cares about and putting them. I'm joking. But I'm doing all.
The truth comes out.
I'm doing all that stuff, myself, and it really adds up.
I get it, man.
So it's nice now to just be able to okay, there's the video, put the audio to it, export the shit, Facebook, YouTube, there you go, done.
Yeah, no, and I get it too, and I think boy, I was going to do an audio only in the beginning, and I said, wow, everybody's doing an audio only podcast. And I didn't know what the niche was, and I said, well, if I'm going to do Rogan, like in terms of open genre, that's pretty wide. But I thought the visual component was really something that would differentiate me, and make this. If I spent some time on the production end of it, I thought maybe it would help us compete beyond a podcast. Like I want to, because now you're blurring the lines of like cable television. You have the TV element into it now. So
I noticed a lot more people started taking it more seriously once I started doing the video, and a lot more people were hitting me up.
I would think so.
It just became, I think just more people were aware of it. It was like more of a serious thing.
But I think it looks good too. I think your optics are pretty good. Yeah, the background and the way and I don't know what camera you're using now, but it's good quality.
It's a Sony A7.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I mean,
that's the camera.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted to, I think it was always, if I want to do something, I want to do it right. Mm-hmm. And once I made the call to start doing the video, which was like a little bit before I got the studio space, it's just like, I just want this to just look better. I want it to do well. And there are people that do music podcasts in Pittsburgh that are like music focused.
Okay.
But I'm not saying that I want to be the best, but like what can I do?
But you want to be the best.
What can I do that's different?
Yeah.
So like somebody that may have been on, show A and show B already wants to be on show C.
Right.
It's like, well, I'm the only music podcast in Pittsburgh doing video constantly. I'm one of the only. Mm-hmm. There's not a whole lot of, there's a lot of Pittsburgh podcasts, but not many of them are doing full audio, full video in a studio setting.
Right.
Right. And I mean, God bless you. You could do it in your living room. It doesn't matter. It doesn't make, what I'm doing or what you're doing.
Not at all.
It doesn't put me on any different
Content's
level.
king.
It's just, I know what I want for myself and what I want my show to be.
When I tell people the crux of what I'm doing, I say we're all about the story. We talk about having you on. I wanted your story. When someone says to you, what's the essence of Start the Beat? Is it the same thing? Do you want that story? That you want that artist story?
Yeah, I always say that, it's a podcast about artists for artists. Mm-hmm. It's the idea, again, isn't so much like, oh, come on and tell me about your album that you've coming out. What was going through your head when you wrote that song? Unless it's something very specifically interesting. It's more just like, let's just hang out. Mm-hmm. And then the listener is kind of like the fly on the wall.
They're eavesdropping.
I want the people listening to the show to feel like they're at the table with us.
Absolutely right. That's the key, and that's so rare. You have to get that, and you do that. I mean, I think it's very apparent when you have 2 guests with you there. I think it becomes very apparent the conversational style of the whole thing, especially if you have two comfortable people. I noticed one of the shows, one of my prior guests, the artist Zachary Rudder.
Yeah.
And Zach was on with, I can't remember the gentleman's name he was
Josh.
with. Josh was on, right. So their show is very conversational. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of like, I'm looking at someone else is doing that conversational style similar to what I'm doing. And I got it as basically a consumer of the content. I was the consumer this time looking at it going, that fucking works. Yeah. So there's some external validation that we're doing the right thing.
Yeah, and I think too, it's just dropping the ego of the show and just what you're doing in general to some degree, and like simplicity works.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this big complicated thing. I don't fucking prepare for shows. I don't take notes.
Yeah.
I don't have a big spreadsheet of things that I want to talk about with anybody that's coming on. It's just like either we can sit down and talk for an hour or we can't.
Right.
Let's hope for the best. So just, talking with anybody about anything, I mean, even if somebody is an artist, like I had Brittany Chantel on my show recently, who is a local hip hop, R&B, soul, a mixture of like pop, music now.
Right.
And we talked a little bit about her music, and then we got into a huge tangent about roller coasters. And that was great because I feel like
it's organic. Purely organic.
I haven't read every interview that she's done, but I mean, she was on the cover of City Paper recently, and she's been, she gets a lot of media coverage around her things, and I'm not 1,000% sure of this, but I'm almost positive that out of all the interviews, mine may be the only one that gets off into more of just a casual who you are as a person. Let's joke let's talk about roller coasters and life and fun and that sort of stuff. And just there's an emotional weight to your music, and we talk about that a bit, but let's talk about other things, I always like asking bands, if they were a food item on a restaurant menu, what would it be? Stupid stuff like
That's
that.
out there.
And just get people thinking about things outside of playing in a band, because people can like your band, people might support what you're doing, but nobody really cares. People just want they want to be your friend, not your fan. So it's give people more of an insight
into who you are.
Right. And the things that you like outside of playing guitar, outside of writing songs. And that's what keeps people sitting at the table, because sometimes you can have these conversations, and I've had them and they're fun, but where you get really in the shit with nerdy stuff, you know what I mean? I'll gladly record an hour-long conversation about guitar pedals with someone. But it's not what everybody wants to hear.
Yeah.
I like being able to have a conversation where no matter who's sitting at the table, they can feel like they're a part of it and they know what's going on.
It's more inclusionary that way too. And you're reaching, and for the survival of your entity, you're trying to reach a broader audience too.
Yeah. And if you want people to find out about the local music scene, don't you have a lot of people that are oh, let's just complain about local venues or complain about local promoters and do this and that, and I try my best to not complain on the show. It's especially when you're trying to get new people into the scene and expose them. Don't highlight the negatives.
That's not helping anything.
Let people know hey, we're having fun. We really care about what we do. Super passionate. We're talented. We love playing at these places. We love working with these people. And somebody might be oh shit, that bar that they're talking about's 5 minutes from me.
Right.
Maybe I'll go check out a show there next week.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to be thinking like that. And that's, unfortunately, there's everybody bitches, right? I mean, that's social media in general today.
It's humans. It's human nature.
Humans. Yeah. So we tend to go to the negative first. And meanwhile, if you can just get past that and talk about what actually is working in places you go that you do have a good time, more people are inclined to go and try it. It's a novel idea, right? I mean, but that's not human nature in most degrees.
Well, I think that it's sometimes it's like that bubble, right? We're talking about it could be surprising to learn about the bubble that exists outside of what you are familiar with in terms of venues you may have never heard of or bands you never heard of, et cetera, et cetera. But also just that bubble of your thought and what your understanding is as a person to open that up and realize oh, I'm a podcast host, and instead of just only talking about what I know actually taking that opportunity to learn from every guest that comes
Absolutely.
in. And
Absolutely.
try to have the guests learn with you about what's going on, so they can walk away with something too from it. I think that it's really important for, you know, the people that listen to the show to be able to get something out of it. I want people that, you know, maybe are musicians or anything, even if you're like a local restaurateur, I want you to be able to learn from like promotional talk and things that we're doing.
Sure, absolutely.
Because there's a lot of great restaurants in the city that just suck at their branding.
No question.
And there's a lot of insanely talented artists that can't find work. Connect those dots, motherfucker. You know, get a really talented artist that needs work with a restaurant that needs a good artist.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. What is underground anymore? I remember what it was back in the 70s and 80s, the underground. What's underground today? If you had to define it.
That's a good question. I don't know if anything is underground, because everybody is a rock star in their own way.
Right.
And we're also connected, you know what I mean? It's like we all know what like our friends, basically what their shit looks like in the toilet every morning, you know. It's
unfortunately, yes.
It's so like we're so tuned in. But if we focus that into music, I think that what underground music is today is the same as what it was 20 years ago. It's just distributed differently. It's a lot easier to find out about it. But you would also be surprised maybe to learn that people that don't have any interest in music or they just don't follow it, they're insanely disconnected. It's like you have a background in music and you have this podcast and you have friends maybe in the industry still, so you're connected to it. So you know about it. It's just part of your environment that you're in. But there are a lot of people that they've never known anybody in a local band. So to them, you know, underground music is still the stuff that they don't hear on the radio.
Got it.
And like local music to them just doesn't exist. They don't even realize it's a thing. There's still a lot of people that are like that.
Really?
Yeah. Totally.
Okay.
It's easy to forget, especially if you live in the city. But I mean, like big cities like this, they're the minority in terms of the country or the world. There's so many rural areas with a lot of people, and they don't have local music scenes. They maybe have, you know, the bar bands and things like that. But there's no like,
good point.
There's no big community.
So there's probably not a real vibrant quote unquote underground music scene outside of maybe the metropolitan areas. Would you not agree?
I mean, some small towns have their bubbles for sure, but I'm sure like Butler, you know what I mean? Butler's always had a crazy underground music scene that has gone up and down throughout the years.
Okay.
But I think in general, underground music is still underground music, you know? It's, you know, mid-sized club venues, you know, bands that are DIY touring, you know, doing the Lord's work in the van, hitting the road, promoters that are either not making a dime or just not giving any of it to the bands and being scheming, like, you know, all that same underground stuff. I feel like it's no different now than it was then. It's like bands have an ability to promote more, and there are I would say there's like a lot more people that are maybe aware of what underground music is. There's a lot more unsigned artists nowadays that are huge, like a Chance the Rapper or somebody. I know for a long time he was unsigned. I have no idea if he's still unsigned, but there's a lot of independent artists. I would say maybe that's the difference. There's like, you could be an independent artist on the radio nowadays, whereas I don't know if that was a thing 20 years ago.
Good point.
But the idea of underground music is still underground music. It's like, what are they playing on the radio right now? You know what I mean? It's whatever your top 40 is, whatever isn't in that, whatever doesn't fall into the top 40 or sounds like that is probably underground.
That band shirt you have right there, I think back to the late 80s, mid 80s, when they first kind of a little blip. And that whole genre, whatever they called, whatever Depeche Mode was, even when Violator hit and it was big, and it became mainstream then, I guess. But that was underground. We called it alternative, I think it was called.
Sure.
Whatever the fuck it was called. It was labeled something. But that's what I remember growing up. This is the stuff that really couldn't get played on radio. And there was a show on MTV called 120 Minutes.
Oh yeah, fuck yeah, dude.
And that stuff was like kind of like regulated to see that stuff.
I would always sit through the end of 120 Minutes to get the Headbangers Ball.
I think I probably did that too.
I remember it, dude. Was it Ricky Rackman?
Ricky Rackman.
Oh yeah, dude.
God. Oh my God, man, Ricky Rackman. Did he used to get his ass beat by some people or something? I can't remember.
But that was the other thing too that was like another going back to my exposure to wide demographics of music. I remember like specifically seeing like Personal Jesus being played on 121 Minutes, and I was waiting for Headbangers Ball because they were gonna fucking debut the Seasons of the Abyss video for the new Slayer album. You know what I mean? And being like 5. And like stoked for this, you know. Look, whatever Seasons of the Abyss came out, but I liked all that stuff, you know.
Yeah, but you were a rare bird then. If your musical palette was that wide, because kids, I can't speak for the 90s, but the 70s and 80s, kids really were kind of like, unfortunately for a lot of us, by our own doing, we were pretty much lumped together in certain genres of music and friends and so forth. We were segregated, we self-segregated based upon musical, which is kind of crazy, but we did that in the 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah.
The 90s, it really went off the rails in a lot of good ways, mostly good, probably. Some bad, maybe. I don't know. But that didn't happen anymore.
Yin and yang.
You grew up, though. You grew up with such a wide palette.
Yeah.
Now, was there a lot more of that going on than I probably know about?
I don't know. I think that it's hard to say. I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, to be completely honest. And that really wasn't anybody's fault. It was just moving around a lot. My parents divorced when I was pretty young.
Right.
And there wasn't a whole lot of like expendable money. Pretty much like my toys growing up were like my dad's cassettes.
Got it.
And like the TV.
Got it.
So it was like music was like the one thing that I really had. You know, and then like I got a little bit older. Like I got like a Super Nintendo when I was like 10 maybe, which is still pretty young. But like that whole like formative years, you know, like really growing up, I didn't have video games. I wasn't fucking around with like many toys or anything.
Yeah.
I would just be like listening to music and watching MTV and watching movies, and that was it. And if my grandma was watching me or my uncle was watching me, it's like, you're going to record stores and here's more music or here's more movies.
Yeah.
Like that was just, I grew up around a lot of that.
Okay. So media was kind of like not only your diversion, but that was almost your set of playthings as well too.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Like I can't remember any. I don't remember even having. I'm sure I had toys when I was a kid, but I don't remember them.
Any of the 70s heavy dinosaur rock bands? Did you dig any of that stuff?
I think so. You know,
let me throw some names out to you.
Sure.
Zeppelin, Sabbath.
Yeah, totally.
Ted Nugent.
Not so much Ted Nugent.
Kiss.
Boston. I liked Kiss.
Aerosmith.
I loved Aerosmith when I was a kid, actually.
ETO.
Yeah, I remember I had a Toys in the Attic vinyl I played the shit out of when I was a kid. I don't know why. I think just like that album cover was sick. But the AC/DC 74 Jailbreak album cover frightened me as a kid. I was like so scared
Why
of
did that frighten you?
Because that's the one with like that's the one Angus Young has the guitar
I
in
believe
him.
so, yeah.
I was just like, what is this? You know, and I was like, I was like 5 or 6. But it was so funny because like I got real desensitized really quick to that because like going into the early 90s back to, I think it would have been Metal Blade when Cannibal Corpse started coming out.
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with that band.
My dad had some Cannibal Corpse tapes. And the artwork is very
gruesome. I'm familiar. And
I remember like seeing that, and like by the time like seeing that, I was just like, "What the fuck is this?" You know, as a kid, just being like, this is weird.
I just had Jed Simon on the show. Do you know Jed? Jed is the guitar player for Strapping Young Lad.
Oh no, okay.
Yeah, Jed was on last week. He drove in from Philadelphia. Him and Devin
Townsend.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're no longer together, working together, but those two. But I always wanted to get Jed in for a long form, and we had an amazing time, amazing stories too. But that was some heavy stuff. I remember doing some guitar work with Jed and just finally listening to that stuff. Reluctantly, you're listening to it only because you're being working with this artist. Let's take a listen. It's fucking heavy stuff, man.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and again, I'm a kid I'm a child of the '70s, so that real. I guess Iron Maiden's probably the first metal that you remember as a kid. Am I right?
Oh, Iron Maiden was my first favorite band.
Right. So that's a big difference between Iron Maiden and maybe, let's say, the Stones. There's a big kind of emotional involvement issue. It's a totally different thing. So learning to accept, Maiden, this is different. Metallica, what's this thing? It was a little weird to me. By the time the 90s came, there's kind of fucking nuts out there.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was interesting, like seeing how extreme music got, and growing with it in a certain way. Because growing up listening to all that stuff that my family was listening to, it was just like, it was almost just like a second language. It didn't feel weird, because some of my earliest memories of listening to music is all of that stuff.
Got it.
And so it wasn't strange to me. There wasn't a huge difference between the Stones or Iron Maiden. It was just, that's the music my uncle likes. That's the music my dad likes. This is the music I like. I remember maybe, I guess it would have been probably in middle school when the extreme stuff started really hitting my palate, because of again, Metal Blade, Roadrunner Records, that stuff. They really start pushing out more stuff into the record stores.
Right.
And you started seeing it more. It started getting played on MTV and stuff, some of the more extreme stuff. And
give me an example. You mean Deicide? Stuff like Deicide?
I don't know if Deicide's one of those bands, but I don't think they were MTV friendly. I'm thinking probably more like Slipknot when they first...
Oh, yeah.
That, the whole new metal movement, I think in general, was when you started seeing more extreme, this is all yelly. There's no singing, it's very... And I remember kind of being turned off by it at first because this is too much, but also just being a young kid and you kind of always go for more extreme things. It's like spicy food, you know what I mean? You can only eat sriracha for so long, and next thing you know, you're using it like fucking ketchup, and you're looking for the next hot thing. So that kind of happens with metal too. You just kind of look for more and more extreme things. And I went through that phase,
right on.
Where in high school I started listening to some crazy stuff, just really super stuff from really Dillinger Escape Plan, which is more mathematical, crazy time signature stuff, all the way over to Cradle of Filth and Dimmu Borgir and more black metal stuff.
I remember those bands.
Just crazy stuff. But then I still like all that stuff, but it finally balanced out over the years. I remember not listening to Iron Maiden for a long time, because it was that's what I liked growing up. But now I'm listening. Now I'm listening to Cradle of Filth. Then it's Cradle of Filth colored Hallowed Be Thy Name. I remember that song. I remember Iron Maiden. Let me listen to Iron Maiden again. Iron Maiden's fucking sweet.
And see, isn't that the great thing about music though? It takes you back to eras, and I think that's the human condition. But music will trigger memories of eras of certain parts of your life.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of music, though.
It's memory is so strange. There were that still to this day, when it's a certain briskness outside, I remember standing outside the Civic Arena waiting to see the Smashing Pumpkins. There's a certain a breeze will hit me and I always think of it.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
Or other just weird memories tied to some not all music related, but my brain works like that a lot.
There's a band called Stone Sour. Do you remember them?
Yeah. That's the Slipknot guys.
Right, and the name forgets me now. The reason that was in my consciousness, we did a guitar for a Zebra Wood Hollow Body, and I can't remember his name.
Jim Root?
No, the other one.
Oh, the other guy, Mick Thompson.
Yes, no, the third guy. No. Corey Taylor.
Corey Taylor, that's the vocalist. Yeah.
Corey Taylor. Yeah. So we ended up doing a guitar for him, and when I got a chance to meet him, I sat down with him and I listened to Stone Sour. Really different from Slipknot, and talking with them, it came back to that same thing. You can talk to the guys. You could probably could get somebody like I don't know, a country artist, right, like Garth Brooks, and put him in a room with Corey Taylor. And believe it or not, after about a couple drinks, they're going to be talking with all the commonality of the world. because they're both artists, different genres, but going through the same shit. And I found that over and over and over again the years that I was in that business. It was nuts.
I remember reading an article once about, I think this is the right trio of musicians. Something about how it was Kirk Hammett, John Theodore, the drummer, and Jack Johnson.
I believe it.
How, like, I guess they all maybe live in the same neighborhood or something, and they had like a little jam band that they would like play. They would just get together and play. Because it's like, we got a couple, like, we're all really good. We're all in wildly different demographics of music, but let's fucking hang out and play. I think it was those three guys. I can't remember exactly, but that idea, though, that was the first time just being like, oh, like, sure, they're in a metal band, and they're, that's a crazy, like, funk jazz fusion drummer and like a singer-songwriter-y little guitar guy. But I have friends that make wildly different styles of music than me. And we could sit down and talk, and we could sit down and play. And I feel like there's so much to learn from people that don't do what you're doing. You know what I mean? It's like you're learning how to speak a different language, essentially. And if you're able to use like the universal language of music to communicate with people and make something happen,
right? That's
awesome.
Well, that was where the blending of all the quote-unquote labels and genres were starting to happen in the early 90s. I mean, that wasn't a bad thing that happened. I'm not a big grunge fan, and it probably because innately in me, number one, they didn't turn their fucking instruments. But number three, some of those bands were responsible for killing the metal that I loved.
Sure.
It's just a selfish thing for me, right?
Well, I think that it was its time. As much as I love it, something was going to knock it out.
Yeah.
If it wasn't grunge, it would have been something else. Everything has a life cycle.
But grunge itself did not last long. I mean, some of the bands stuck around, and you can argue that Pearl Jam has been a very successful band. But after those first 4 or 5 years, that's where their heyday was. They were just kind of like, running their corporation, which is ironic, right? Their corporation, Pearl Jam.
Yeah.
But,
well, if it was all like this, like, kind of similar to, it was like a lazier version of punk in some ways.
No question.
You know what I mean? Like,
no
but
question.
the same, like, live fast, die young mentality. And that's the genre did.
No question.
It lived fast, died young. But it was like, we don't have the energy to do our hair and make a fancy jacket, so we'll just throw on a ripped flannel and just not shower.
But
it's still like the same mentality, like simple chord structure, simple songs, but catchy. There's a lot of grunge songs that are like undeniably
no question.
fucking
no question.
Crazy catchy.
No question. The movement was just a little bit odd. Did you think there was any kind of hypocrisy in the grunge? I don't even know if it was a movement. The way it was marketed. Because I found it kind of like a little disingenuous because they bashed everything societal, but they took the fucking money. And, but after a while I got over it.
Well, I think that
I mean, I kind of got over that after a while. But
I think that stuff happens so fast when you're in that position.
You think?
You don't even realize it. You know what I mean? We're talking, some of those bands, you play a few shows, you play a few bigger shows. You're like, oh, well, we'll sign this contract. You don't really pay attention to what you're signing. And then the next thing you fucking like, whoa, what the fuck happened? You know what I mean?
Right.
You can go to fucking Half Price Books and buy a Sex Pistols iPhone case.
Yeah. Fucking right.
So it's just like
ain't nothing wrong with that.
No, but it's just like that is so like it seems so silly.
Yeah.
And when you look at it in retrospect, but it's just like that is just what happens. You can go to any Walmart and buy a Nirvana t-shirt. And it's like, okay. But at the time, you're not thinking that that's what's going to happen. You're just like, well, okay, most of those artists are probably in fucking debt and all of these things to begin with. So it's like, you'll get out of your debt. You'll be able to play comfortably. You'll live good, blah, 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 blah.
Okay, so let's move there before we finish up here. I want to talk about the money component here. Okay. So everything really went off the rails in 99 with Napster and downloading all that nonsense, and it's never recovered. I mean, you still have a couple artists in every genre of music out there making super fucking money. I don't know where all the rap money goes. I haven't figured out. Like, I don't understand how Kanye West could possibly be worth what they say he's worth, or take other 5 or 6 top end rap. I don't understand where their money's coming from.
Well, he has other things that he does. The Adidas sponsorships, his clothing line.
I guess
all that thing.
I guess, but I'm saying there outside of maybe your 1% or your 1% of 1%. that actually get the big payday. Everyone else is kind of in the middle. And my question to you is, from a financial standpoint now, is music disposable?
I don't know. I find that it can be really easy and complicated to. It's like, what is your goal as a musician? You know, if you want to be in a band that's touring full time and you're paying all your bills on it, it's good fucking luck, brother.
Because that's gone.
Yeah, but there are people that are doing it, so it's not impossible. But
No.
I also know a lot of bands that are huge bands. You know, there's a band from Pittsburgh that is arguably one of the largest bands in their genre in the world currently.
Okay.
And I know people that know them, and I've, heard through the grapevine that they're pretty much broke.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how big they are, regardless of touring around. I mean, granted, you can't take those experiences that they have and the opportunities that they have. Priceless.
Yeah.
Fucking priceless.
But the 360 deal killed them.
And I don't know if it was a 360. I don't know what it was, but all the power to them, because I think that regardless of money or no money,
Yeah.
I hope that they're happy and doing well. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're fucking killing it. But it could be hard sometimes, I think, to really analyze like what you want out of life, and you see other people being successful, and it's easy to assume that they have everything.
Absolutely. Well,
But they might not.
we're living in an envy culture.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And it could be really easy to take what you have for granted
No question.
too. So I don't know how to answer that question in like a general standpoint. I can only
Okay.
answer it like from my perspective. It's like, everything that I do in my life revolves around music. And I pay all my bills. But I think that you need to be able to diversify yourself.
No question.
And not just focus on one thing. You know what I mean? Like, I work full time for a record label, and I play in 2 bands, and I have a podcast, and I do DJ nights and other events and things. I have a lot of things that I do. It's all tied into music. Some things I make money from, some things I don't.
Right.
But it all comes together. I think it's just impossible now to have one thing. Even going back to Kanye West, it's like, he's not just doing music. He's making money from his clothing. He's making money, not even just making his own music, but probably producing stuff for other people. And I'm sure that, he's probably just invested in a ton of stuff that has nothing to do with music at all, that he's able to keep stuff generating through. And an artist on his level too, you figure he's probably had movies, like music and movies and TV shows.
Probably. There's
and
multiple streams.
There's like all
it.
sorts of stuff that's coming in.
So you were 14 in 99, roughly, right? About 14 years old.
I was born in 85, so that's correct.
So you saw the little tinge. You were able to understand and be aware of the little tinge of where there was an opportunity to make money in music. But the old, so my point is, in generations now, the generation after you, these folks have grown up in an era where they never saw money in music. They never saw the golden days of getting the record contract and the record company paying for the tour. And people used to tour to support the album sales. Now the album sales are a throwaway, and they're touring to make revenue from the shit they sell.
Yeah, sure.
It's completely on its
But
head, right?
I think that in the long run, there's maybe an opportunity to make more money than you ever did.
Okay.
If you could do it right. If you're going back to thinking about independent artists.
All right.
Like, say you put out an album and you release it on Spotify. And you don't have a label. You put that out yourself.
Okay. So
You're making
overhead.
you're making money from the streams. All that's going directly to you. It's not getting filtered through X, Y, and Z before
Okay.
you get, your split.
Okay.
And based off of that, if you're able to hire one agent to help you book shows, you're making all that money from the shows. Again, it's not getting split between the label and all of these other things.
Okay.
And then ultimately, at the end of the day, say you're done playing shows in 5 years, you still own all the rights to your music. So say 10 years down the road, your song's still in a movie, or like you're repressing albums and things like that, you're still getting all that money. Whereas like, how much money do you think, the Led Zeppelin estate is getting from all of the vinyl reissues that they do for Record Store Day every year? And like all the t-shirts that are sold at Walmart and all of those things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, who's seeing that money from all of these things that are being sold? I feel
get
like
it.
in the long run, if you like own everything that you're doing and you're able to stay independent, I mean, I don't know if you're ever going to get as big as any of those artists.
Yeah.
But I think that you may be able to make more money doing something smaller than the big game. Going back to the band that I had mentioned before, that is one of the bigger bands. Like, one of the things that I heard, you know, through the grapevine was just like, we were making more money playing fire hall shows than we are now.
That's interesting.
Because they're touring independently. You know what I mean? And if they play some fire hall where they could pack 400 kids into it, and they're walking out with, you know, $5,000 at the end of the night, that might be more than the whatever they're getting, you know, playing a huge stadium show, but it's getting filtered through. You know what I mean?
No,
like $5,000, $5,000 under the table. Like, here's an envelope of cash. You know what I mean?
I remember
that kind of shit.
Before downloading, I can remember even before downloading, there was, to get on Ozfest, you had to fucking pay. These young, really the low end bands, not the very, you know, the ones playing early in the day. Some of those were paying to get on the. I mean,
that's still a huge thing. Yeah, hell
that's nuts.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's just crazy.
That's another thing. I feel like there's definitely some bands in the rock metal world that the way that it's like they tour, but like a lot of their revenue is probably actually coming from the bands that they have on tour with them.
Wow, that's insane. That's just totally insane. Unbelievable. All right, before you split, man, what's show 300 today, right? So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
300.
I am recording episode 300. I mean, spoiler alert, I've technically recorded well over 300 because I have a bunch of episodes that aren't aired yet.
Right.
But this will be officially number 300, recording that tonight. And yeah, I'm stoked.
And no agenda tonight. Tonight's a free-for-all.
It's a free-for-all. I'll find something. I'll lock it in. I don't know exactly what'll happen, but who knows?
Outside of that, anything else that you can reveal? Any other plans you have?
There's a lot of stuff going on this year, to be completely honest with you.
Okay.
So right now with Sikes and a New Violence, we are wrapping up a lot of new material for a new record that will be released this year. 1000%. I'm really excited about it.
Okay.
It's cool. It's an exciting new, more aggressive direction.
More aggressive.
We're talking about being selfish. I feel like it's probably creatively the most selfish thing I've ever done.
Okay.
This album. It's really cool. I'm really stoked on it.
All right.
So people will hear that soon.
Okay.
I don't know when you are releasing this.
2 days.
2 days. Okay, so on March 27th, you can actually catch Sikes and a New Violence at Mr. Small's Funhouse.
Oh, right on.
We'll be playing with our friends in Jake the Hawk in Frame and Mantle, and that show is being promoted by Twist of Fate Productions.
Oh, get out.
Yes.
All right. There
so
you go.
that'll be March 27th. You can check that out. And Grey Walker, we're recording a new EP this year.
Okay.
So I think we are going to be recording that in June. And we have some shows coming up. You can go on to greywalker.net and figure that out because I don't remember the dates right now. And then I have a third band.
Okay.
That we're actually playing our first show on April 1st.
What genre music?
It is new wave, alternative,
all right,
dance pop stuff.
All right.
The project is called Some Faith. Some Faith. You can follow us online. There are social media accounts. We haven't posted anything yet.
Okay.
But they exist. We're on literally every social media platform. Just look up Some Faith 666. That's our handle on everything.
Okay.
We are not evil by any means. We just don't take social media very seriously, and Some Faith was already taken. So
got it.
Some Faith 666, and we'll be playing our first show on April 1st at Brillo Box.
Right.
And we have an album of material that we are currently recording, and we've been working kind of silently in the shadows on that for like the past half a year.
Okay.
Just writing and demoing and stuff. So I'm excited to finally get that out, and then aside from that, you can catch Start the Beat with Sikes.
3 musical projects plus the podcast.
Yeah, you can catch Start the Beat with Sikes every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. That's when it airs, and then everything's available 24/7.
Right,
Obviously,
right.
you just go to therealsikes.com/startthebeat or type in "start the beat" into your internet device, and I'll come up. So those are a few places where you can find me in the next couple months.
Oh my gosh! Plus there's a job weaved in there somewhere too, right?
Yes, yeah. Get Hip Records. You can go to gethip.com, therealsikes.com, graywalker.net, somefaith666.com. It's all there, buddy.
All right, man. Come back and see me for sure.
Yes, please.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, I had a blast, dude.
Awesome,
I feel
man.
like there's so much more we could have talked about.
And we're gonna do that.
Yeah, dude.
This was just your first visit.
Thank you, Eric.
Oh,
I appreciate it, man.
There you go, Sikes.
Goodbye.
We are out.
Peace out.